Welcome to Bible Reader Companion. We are on our final day of looking at 1 Timothy chapters 3 and 4. We spent the first 3 days looking at 1 Timothy chapter 3 and the section that Paul addresses the position of a bishop in God's church, an overseer, a leader of God's people. We want to turn to a different section today, and we want to look at chapter 4, beginning in verse 12. Paul says to Timothy, "Let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity. Till I come, give attention to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Do not neglect the gift that is in you, which was given to you by prophecy with the laying on of the hands of the eldership. Meditate on these things. Give yourself entirely to them, that your progress may be evident to all. Take heed to yourself and to the doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this, you will save both yourself and those who hear you." You know, there's a lot of people who would like to jump on that first part of verse 12, wouldn't they? Let no one despise your youth. Now look, you can't make fun of me because I'm young, but you don't have to go any further than the very next sentence to understand that Paul is not talking here about a cocky attitude that runs around and says, "Hey, don't rebuke me because of my age." It's possible that Timothy was as old as mid-30s here when this was written, depending on how you place various things and you look at the culture of the Jews. But whatever age he may have been, Paul's emphasis here is not on just saying, don't make fun of the young. Look at what he says. He says, but be an example. And everything else in the rest of his exhortation is talking to Timothy about how to conduct himself. You know, it doesn't matter what age we are, whether we are youth or whether we are older. We should act in such a way that people cannot despise the way in which we conduct ourselves. Many people oftentimes want to go around and wear a cross around their neck, or they want to put religious sayings on their cars, or they want to put religious sayings on the wall in their homes. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's good to have Scripture in front of us and be reminded of Scripture. But simply putting a bumper sticker on, or simply wearing an image that we think reminds us of Christ, does not make us who we ought to be. What makes us who we ought to be is conducting ourselves in such a way that people look at us and say, that person is different. That person lives by a different standard. Let me ask you a question. If people looked at your life compared to the people around you, would they see a different person? Paul told Timothy, don't let your youth be despised because you act in such a way that they can't. You give attention to yourself and to the reading and to the doctrine, and you study and you understand what the will of God is, and you conduct yourself according to that. He says you'll save yourself and those who hear you. So clearly he's talking to Timothy from the standpoint of being an evangelist. But how much does that apply to us as well? That not only by applying these things to ourselves will we save ourselves, but those on whom we have influence. What influence are we having on others? Thank you for studying 1 Timothy chapters 3 and 4 with us this week, and we hope you'll join us again next week. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook for more content like this.